Oh, the Windy City is a very beautiful city. If you guys have ever been to Chicago, you notice that it's a lot cleaner, a lot more modern. It's next to the water. It's just a better version of Manhattan. But Chicago is probably one of the cities I don't even want to step foot in. I went there for a quick vacation, and yes, it was pretty fun. It still is. There's still a decent amount of tourists, but there is a lot of crime. Step outside the North Loop, you get into something like the Purge. The south side of Chicago is absolutely crime-ridden. This is not the place where you want to go to. And many residents right now are fed up with what Chicago's doing and how they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars of their own taxpayer dollars. Check this out. South Side Chicago residents are speaking out against city helping migrants over them. You can check out these interviews everywhere on X and other platforms like TikTok. There's a lot of street interviews from big news media and small news media. And the conclusion is every single one of these residents are fed up with how the city is doing things. Chicago is a very wealthy city. They have a lot of money. Well, maybe not anymore because they're spending $100 to $200 million on the migrant crisis every few months. If they just spend a small fraction of that money on the south side of Chicago, like what this man is saying. This gentleman says that if they just spend just a tiny portion of that money on the crime situation, the infrastructure situation, and support small business in the south side of Chicago, it might actually become a pretty nice and a very desirable place to live. But of course, the city will much rather help migrants, and pretty much these guys are left in the dust. And if you look at some of the videos being taken, we even got homeless people in Chicago saying that the migrants are taking a lot of their resources that are supposed to be allocated to them. Now, here's the thing about Chicago. I think everyone is okay with the migrant crisis, but it's about how many people you take in. If Chicago just took in maybe 1,000 people, or maybe at the very most, 3,000 people, it wouldn't really get that bad. And then Chicago used some of the resources for the migrants and also people who are in need, I think everyone will be very happy, right? Chicago really improved as a city. But when you take in like almost 50,000 people and then you take in, use all the taxpayer money on the migrant crisis and you leave nothing for these guys, well, of course, everyone's getting mad. Now you have people saying that they're voting for Trump. All right, they are no longer being able to sleep in heated shelter with electricity. The migrants get that. Whereas domestic homeless Americans pretty much are forced to sleep like this, sleep like animals outside in tents. And let me tell you guys something. Chicago winters are extremely cold. It is not pleasant at all. And this man is extremely frustrated. Him and a lot of his other buddies who are also homeless have said the same thing. The city doesn't really give them much, okay? And this is just one of thousands of videos on the internet where you can actually interview these guys and watch them. Many people are sleeping under bridges, under tents, maybe if they're lucky in like an abandoned building. But at the end of the day, this is what it looks like everywhere, right? They don't get any sort of privileges, any shelters, any money. And this is why people are just so disconnected from the government right now. People are just very tired of how many of these sanctuary cities are operating. You could spend almost $200, $300 million on a migrant crisis, but you couldn't just spend like $10, $20, $30 million on this situation is what's getting people really mad. Not to mention the Chicago crime is so intense that many store closures are here. Now, people say that Chicago is very wealthy and they could easily make their money back from spending all this in the migrant crisis, but I highly doubt it. For example, many small businesses have already left many parts of south side of Chicago, now the west side, and other parts are closer to the loop. Walmart closes 4 Chicago locations. This is insanely high. You have Walmart closing stores in every state, but many states only have 1 store closure because Walmarts make a lot of money. Walmart in Chicago lost 5 times more money than before the pandemic right now. And no wonder they had to close 4 stores because it was literally stores that was draining money every single hour. And look at this. This migrant population isn't stopping anytime soon. Mayor Brandon Johnson of Chicago is so down bad, he's asking suburban mayors for help, which many of them are saying no. And then when you have news like this, like Ken Griffin pulling Citadel out of Chicago, he has taken his companies, his employees, and his wealth to Miami. His colleague was robbed on gunpoint. His penthouse is in one of the best neighborhoods of Chicago, and the lobby got shot up. And no wonder the dude doesn't want to live in Chicago. He has money, he has wealth, he doesn't have to live in Chicago. He doesn't want to stay here anymore. And when Chicago is having high companies, very wealthy companies, leave for other cities, they can't really make this money back anymore. Another notable company that left was Boeing, and then the numerous thousands and thousands of small businesses all fleeing Chicago. This is not looking great for Chicago. Citizens are fed up, their money is running dry, the amount of corporations headquartered in Chicago is at an all-time low, whereas other cities in America like Vegas, Austin, Miami are all taking business from the sanctuary cities. Thanks for watching, guys. Comment below. And how do you guys think Chicago can fix themselves?